Okay, I'm not going to make this one very long because I'm a bit tired, but I do want to make it right now, having just watched that now famous interview between the Duke of York and Emily Maitlis of the BBC, which took place a few days ago at Buckingham Palace. Um, First thing that's noticeable is 2019 has been a sort of second annus horribilis for the royal family. That was the term the Queen coined for the year 1992 when there were fractions in the relationships in the royal family and the Windsor Castle fire. This year has been a rough year for the royal family, starting with Prince Philip's car crash and all the consequences of that. Um, Prince Harry and, or rather, to give them the more formal title, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and their fallout with the media, and now this Prince Andrew situation. It's been a difficult year for the royal family. Um, so I've watched the whole interview. It's about 50 minutes long. It's got almost a million views now. It's probably going to be the interview of 2019. Um, and I don't quite know what to make of it. Um, who knows what the truth is? I mean, obviously Jeffrey Epstein's dead, so he can't defend himself, or well, he was guilty, but he's now only being talked about. He can't testify or face justice, further justice, or anything like that because he died in the New York correctional facility. I understand. Even the circumstances of his death are a matter of debate, but the focus now is on Prince Andrew as a high profile friend or associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Um, and it looks like the consequences are far reaching. Today it was announced that he is stepping back from royal duty. If you don't know, if you are an international observer, Prince Andrew is the second son of Queen Elizabeth II, so he is a senior member of the royal family. Currently, I believe, ninth or 10th in line to the throne. And when he was born, I believe he was third in line to the throne after Prince Charles and the Princess Royal. Um, so this is clearly going to have. I mean, Dickie Arbiter was saying it won't have an effect on the institution, but it will have an effect on Prince Andrew. Apparently, he stepped back from public duty of his own accord. I imagine there was some pressure. I imagine the family would have spoken about it. I imagine the Queen and Prince Charles would have had significant conversation with him about this. As for the interview itself, it's clear that there are some sticking points about some of his answers. Um, and some things that don't quite add up. The whole thing about going to a Pizza Hut and Woking, and that's how he remembers that he wasn't at, forget the allegation now, but that's how he remembered that he wasn't at a location he was supposed to be at because he knew he was at this Pizza Hut in Woking. Well, apparently, a security officer called in LBC to say, the LBC radio station, say that there'd be an easy way to prove that one way or another, in that there would be records of the prince's engagement on a certain date, because he's a high profile member of the royal family. There's some things that are problematic in the interview. He failed to really explicitly show sympathy for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. That's a problem. I don't think he lacks sympathy. I think he just failed to show it in that interview. He did say that it's right that they are getting a voice now, but at one point he was directly asked, this particular accuser named him, said that he had sex with her. He said he didn't recall. And that photograph that's being going around, Prince Andrew said that it's definitely him, but he's not in a position to know whether it was fake or not, as some are suggesting. But he doesn't recall it at all. He did say, though, that the Epstein residence was large. It was like Buckingham Palace. He made a sort of analogy to that regarding the people that were going around. And he knew that he hadn't been upstairs because all the functioning rooms were downstairs. Um, Dickie Arbiter said, well, if he hadn't been upstairs, how did he know what it looked like? I don't know. There are a lot of things. I think it's the sort of interview you need to watch a few times to really consider. Um, I'll be honest though, I can't help but partly feel he's being made a bit of a scapegoat before he has been found guilty of anything. Um, I mean, at the moment, it seems to me his biggest mistake is lack of judgment to continue this acquaintance of friendship with Jeffrey Epstein even after his arrest. Now, Prince Andrew says that on this side of the Atlantic, that wasn't big news at the time. That it wasn't kind of known. I think that's a little bit of a push. I think, that would imply that he's very out of touch. And some analysts are saying that he couldn't have been around Jeffrey Epstein without knowing something. Now, the prince has said that he stayed with Jeffrey Epstein when he was in New York City out of convenience. That may be true, but it's a terrible judgment call, as he has acknowledged himself. And he says that it wasn't so much of a friendship. The main connection was that he was friends with their mutual friends, Ghislaine Maxwell. And it was her connection with Jeffrey Epstein that gave him a connection. Well, what's happening now is a lot of charities and organisations associated with the prince are cutting off ties. KPMG, I believe, it's either an insurance firm or some sort of financial firm. They've cut off ties. The English National Ballet have cut off ties. I mean, the Duke's connected to 189 charities, including one that has that is about helping young women who are victims of sex trafficking. Ironically, um, so they're all reviewing their ties to the Duke of York. For international viewers, Duke of York is his royal title, along with Prince Andrew. Um, I don't know about that. To me, that feels like punishing a man before he's been found guilty of anything. It's kind of a consequence of the Me Too era. It seems that if high profile men are associated with something, not just accused of something, but associated with something, they're sort of being punished before they've even been found guilty. Now, he's now saying that he's willing to talk to FBI investigators. Would a guilty man say that? I don't know. I don't know. And now there's scrutiny about his finances. That seems to me a little bit of, oh, well, it's bash royal privilege. I'm not, unless that's directly connected to Jeffrey Epstein. I think that's just a little bit irrelevant. I mean, it's a relevant question in of itself, but as it pertains to this case, it just seems like Prince Andrew's now being used as kind of the poster boy of royal privilege. That's bashing for that. And I think this is one of those things Republicans are going to just assume he's guilty because oh, he's a member of the royal family and he's privileged. And on the other hand, I mean, Boris Johnson in the debate last night said the royal family is beyond reproach. That's clearly nonsense as well. Um, Prince Andrew should be scrutinised as he's pretty much acknowledged himself. I can't help feeling he's being made a scapegoat to some extent. That's my gut feeling. Um, I'm not saying he's innocent. I just don't know. But I don't think people should be punished or penalised before they've been found guilty of anything. I think questions should be asked. I think he should speak to the FBI and answer their questions. But charities cutting off links, organisations cutting off links, it's like he's being made into a pariah. So I cannot help but feel he's kind of being made a scapegoat on some level. What else can I say? My own views on Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew isn't always in the public eye in the way that Prince Charles and the Queen are, up until this point. In the past, I've been uneasy about some of his ties. For example, I don't like the fact he has business dealings with Central Asian dictators. Some of them are pretty brutal dictatorships. For example, he has ties to the Uzbek dictatorship, the late Islam Karimov. So that doesn't sit well with me. But regarding this Epstein thing, I just don't know. I mean, if Prince Andrew had sex with a young woman that was trafficked, she's making this accusation. His response to that was a little bit strange. He said he didn't know what she wanted to gain from that, but he denied it. To me, if I'm accused of something that I haven't done, I'd be pretty vocal about it. I'd say it's absolutely. But I suppose for a man, if you accuse an accuser of being a liar, that also generates negative publicity. So he does have to temper his words carefully. He did say at one point the reason he visited Epstein after the allegations had emerged, after the arrest warrant and so on, was to say face to face that he had to cut off ties. And his rationale for that was that he felt it would be a bit of a pop out to do it by phone. Well, maybe that's an old fashioned sort of sense of honour. It's a bit of a low blow to do it by phone. I think that's actually quite plausible. But there are other things about the interview that don't add up. So anyway, what are your thoughts? Do you think Prince Andrew knows more than he's letting on? Is Prince Andrew? Do you think he might be guilty? I mean, this is a thing. None of us can be absolutely sure. And that's always the case with these sort of high profile situations where a prominent public figure is accused of things. We just don't know. We just don't know. I think Emily Maitland's done a good job. She asked the right questions. Um, but my gut feeling is he's partly being made a scapegoat. My gut feeling is he's probably had poor judgment on a number of these matters. But my gut feeling is to some extent he's being made a scapegoat. I could be completely wrong, and it could further down the line it could be revealed that Prince Andrew has had been involved in some very dubious behaviour. Certainly maintaining any ties to Epstein after his arrest was foolish. That it's difficult to kind of rationalise that. Um, but Prince Andrew said he did try to sever ties, so I don't know. Let me know your thoughts.